Hi, it's Kate again. So I just wanted to offer an explanation around as I understand it, the mechanics of how the soul actually gives rise to the physical body. And often this can be very helpful in understanding how we can come into more true power in our life through emotional release. So, as I understand it, at the heart of the physical body, at its very essence, at its very core, is the connection that we have with Source. It's where our own unique visionary DNA, like a river of essence, actually arises out and forms our individual code, our unique purpose. Just like every single leaf on a tree is actually unique. They might look similar from afar, but they're actually unique if you look at them. We're also unique in that way, and we have our own perfect form. The next layer that the soul contacts is the emotional body. Now, the emotional body is the first part of that represents a wave of flow. And with women in particular, through our monthly cycle and also through our lifetime succession from early childhood into adolescence and then into mature states within the woman's life, we go through a huge amount of emotional flow. And it's very important to understand that when we don't fully express how we're feeling through that body, we will store material. And that material, it's not always trauma, but it can be. It can also be unexpressed sexual expression. It can be unexpressed creativity. It can really be anything that in the moment we weren't able to fully release through the emotional body and let that wave of that expression really come out. And so when there's a part that has been expressed and a part that hasn't been, the part that hasn't been expressed sits and stays within us, waiting for a time in future for that expression to be triggered. That will distort and give flavour to the soul's ability to purely from that heartfelt essence from within your body just clearly come out and shine through the physical. The next layer on top of the emotional is the mental body. And really, the mind is less of a powerful force than what we might think. It's a bit of a trickster, the mind. A lot of people get caught in identifying themselves as that which they think. They also get caught in identifying with themselves as that which they feel. So the mind is really more like a mirror. I've had a beautiful woman I worked with, Kelly Lachey, and she calls the process here a liquid mirror. And I believe that too, that the mind is very much a liquid mirror to that which is carried in the emotional body and how that's expressing, whether it's in flow or stuckness or part of both. And then deeper again, how the soul is actually able to express itself will be reflected in the mind. When the mental body is working well, it's quite creative. It can go through lots of states of being active and very dynamic, being very helpful, your little ally on your shoulder, helping you to work things out and orient through the world. But then it will also experience states of silence and complete stillness naturally without it needing to be cultivated. That's when there's flow, because there's literally flow from the soul into the emotional body, out into the mental body, and then of course through the physical into the actionable world. When there's a lot of distortion held, a lot of woundedness, a lot of unexpressed frozen life experience in the emotional body, when the energy of the soul moves through that, it distorts and it will actually set the physical mind into certain repetitive patterns of action, thinking repetitive thoughts, and being in a consistent sense of activity which is outside the control of your conscious mind, your conscious awareness. So sometimes it can be really helpful if we look at the mind as a liquid mirror and we say, well, why is my mind won't shut up? It's just at night time when I'm trying to go to bed, it's going and going and going and I can't control it. Well, that's actually, I believe, a really wonderful indicator that beneath the mind there will be undigested life experience that needs to be unlocked, that needs to be discovered in the unconscious, in order for flow to occur again and for the mind to go back to being an ally that is actually quite powerful in that state. And of course then there's the physical that houses all of this. And so, there is that sense, I believe, that the physical is also not as fixed as we think, and reality is not as fixed as we believe it to be. So, the physical will also be an indicator if there's illness, if there's chronic physical problems, that there's often a link into the mental world with the physical. Certain thoughts, certain behaviours, certain ways of thinking about ourselves and about other people, which will actually align and reflect that physical illness. And then beneath that will be emotional undigested life experience, which we can work through in order to release all of those layers into greater flow. So the essence and the purity of your own individual soul self and your true authentic self can have the chance just to freely express in the world that we live in. And I've seen in Indigenous communities in Arnhem Land masterful parenting, very masterful parenting for young children, where they really allow young children to fully express up until the point that they go through young woman or young man initiation. And so when they get to that point of going through initiation in adolescence, they haven't got a body that is packed full of undigested life experience. They actually have a free system functioning through flow. And yet I look at our culture and I do see a huge amount of adults who are struggling to get to that process. Mostly because we just haven't been born into a culture that understands the possibility of parenting in a way where we're looking at how can we parent to create elders who can sustain the life of the communities that we're living in. A lot of the time, I think in our culture, we're actually creating old people who are very unwell, who then go into homes, who are often unable to be cared for by family, and who are no longer, not all the time, but consciously and cognitively, they're actually not functioning well at all because the physical mind at that point has actually gone into a state of, being degraded. So once again, it's just food for thought. And so the mechanics of how the human soul actually comes into physical form and creates us, those mechanics, I believe, are really critical to understand through your own direct experience if you're really ready to come into mastery of what it is to be a woman, a human woman with a body, with an emotional body, with a mental body, all of these phenomenal tools which we get to experience the grand life that we live, and coming hopefully through the understanding of those mechanics out of feeling like we're a victim in life, but actually feeling like we do really have the power to live a life where we know our worth as women and we know the sense of the depth of connection that we have through the soul to all of creation, to Gaia, to the heart of the earth, and also to the heart of whatever you believe to be the creator consciousness. So I hope that was helpful, and if you'd like more of an understanding of that, feel free to get in touch. Okay, thanks.